So I have been through hell. I've been through hell, and I hope I get to talk about it more soon because I think it's important. And I want to see change as a survivor of violence. But it's no secret that I'm a huge proponent of reforming sex offense laws for people with sex offense convictions. And I have done reforming of laws in Maine for some time. I worked on trying to reform ordinances in the towns of Yarmouth and in Lewiston when they wanted to pass residency restrictions for people with sex offense convictions. I'm also a survivor of violence by the hands of over 12 white men since infancy until 41 years of age, and I'm 41 years old. I have worked with men with sex offense convictions for some time, and there was a point a couple years ago that I had to stop my involvement with helping people because I recognized I was actually targeted by somebody who was extremely dangerous and turned out to be extremely dangerous. I took a hiatus from things, and I'm slowly getting back to organizing, engaging people, and feeling from a place of, I don't even know. I just don't know what it is. I was trying to be connected with somebody tonight that needs support because they're experiencing the repercussions of harm that was caused due to sexual violence by law, conviction for sex offense with a minor. And there's elements to the person where they have diagnoses, maybe that processing things just isn't is just a little challenging. And I think the way that the culture is, our culture is, with the culture promoting cultural norms that harm, and also what is law, there's discrepancy. So sometimes clarity around consent and things are not either talked about or education or violated. And so people are held accountable by the law. I am trying to support somebody that has disabilities, intellectual disabilities, that was convicted for a sex offense, and they're a young person, very young person. The person is experiencing suicidal ideation. A person with intellectual disabilities who struggles with autism, who is convicted of a crime, is experiencing suicidal ideation. When I receive a call like this, it's not for me to show judgment or bias either way. It's not for me to question the harms that were caused. It's for me to just simply show up. Even though this person has convicted, they still should be in a space maybe where they're not experiencing suicidal ideation. And so there's risk to this, right? We're in a pandemic. There's little resources, little supports. What happens if somebody is stuck in this cycle? They're not able to get supports. They're not able to move past grief, really. grief and the realization of the harm they caused. And what happens? A large part of my work for reforming sex offense laws is supporting survivor healing. And it's not impossible in space when reforming sex offense laws. I think maybe that's a failing for people reforming sex offense laws sometimes. And I'm always honest about that. What's important is that people in community, especially with convictions, have supports around them because there's risk, right? It's institutionalization, incarceration, death. There's only, or going to substances. What's the alternative? And if somebody's not in an okay state of mind, what's the opportunity or chance that they might cause harm again? Or be in situations where they're causing harm, especially with intellectual disabilities. And the response is through the court system to be punitive. I was able to talk to this person about shame and guilt, that when harm occurs, both parties, the person who harmed and the person that was harmed, experiences feelings of shame and guilt. Really, the onus is on the person that caused harm, right? Even for the survivor, that shame and guilt for the person that caused harm. But it's a process for survivors to know and understand that, and to get to that place, especially in a world that victim blames and shames them. In the work of restorative and transformative justice, they say shame and guilt is what's rooted in how people kind of like respond, especially to the harms that they cause. But I think it's a repercussion of the actual feeling that's rooted, and that's fear. We're up against that with supremacists, their fear. So it's important to talk about those things. Right now, it's important to figure out crisis needs and crisis assessment. This person needs supports in life. They need supports in life. They need supports. They need community. They need to know there's opportunity to repair harm. They need to know that there's life even after harm that they caused, that they're not their crimes, and they shouldn't be reduced down to their crimes. I know it seems impossible for people to see life after an experience, life after harm, life after hurting somebody, and things like that. So it's really important to engage people around them for supports. I don't normally talk about the people that I work with in community because I believe in anonymity. But I'm talking about this because I had an emotional response. I got off the phone with this family and I started crying. My life work has been this. Even when I was, first as a kid, as a survivor, that I could recall my beliefs and stuff, my experiences. I believed in human rights. I was having an emotional response because I realized that this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be here to speak truth to people, to address cultural norms that harm, to talk about the things that society does and is permissive of, that gets people convictions. Because the punitive system is just that, punitive. And I guess in a way, it's also permissive and neglectful. But it's punitive. And there's rarely ever positive results that come from punitive. If somebody doesn't have supports and resources, we're in a pandemic, there's war going on in this country, we have other elements like extremism on the rise. it trickles down into communities and people are impacted. We're going to have higher substance use, higher drug addiction, higher sexual violence, higher domestic violence, higher rates of femicide. There's precursors to predict the outcomes. And this is where in community there could be intervention. I am grateful for the work that I do to work with men with sex offense convictions as a survivor of violence and to lead the work. I remember having a Thanksgiving dinner. I was invited to eat among people with sex offense convictions. I was the only woman NB there in the space. It was a tradition for these folks to come together, to have Turkey Day together. By the time I got there, everything was like pretty much ready. The food, sorry, I'm reflecting back and I'm going to be honest, I'm reflecting back and I'm wondering with hesitancy if I was among safe people. And not a safe people with people with convictions, but if I was possibly invited around a table of supremacists. Imagine that. But anyway, I had a man look at me and talk to me, and he looked at me in wonder, like I was like a whole other entity, like I was glowing red or something, or I have no idea. But he's like, oh my gosh, you guys exist. I was like confused for a moment. But he's like, he was so grateful for me as a survivor to see him even with a conviction. That moment to have dinner or Thanksgiving dinner with them really changed a lot for me, I think, in perspective around community. I wondered too, could I eat among a dinner table among over the 12 men who have offended me? I don't even want him to touch me. Ever. Could I sit at a table with them? I believe in human rights so much. I do. And a large part of that is sexual assault prevention. We need active participation to end sexual violence. We need active participation to end femicide. My emotional response, I knew this is the work that I was supposed to do. I spend my life work, and there's always been intersections of radicalization, supremacy, sexual violence, domestic violence, femicide, all interconnected. So I don't know what's going to happen from here. In my perfect world, I'd love to build a community of survivors, and perhaps in this work I'll be able to do that. Yeah. It's kind of fucked up too, you know. I'm at my wit's end with my last experience that I had. And I'm like, this is my transformative justice. This is my justice. I get to work with men. I get to work with men for the same crimes that were done to me. And it's hard. It's a hard realization. It's a hard realization because I'm hurting from harm. But this is my transformative justice. I had to share because I don't know where it's going to go, how it's going to lead, where I'm going to go. I just know I have to continue to speak. People have projected their fears onto me. And yes, I'm scared. I'm scared for my life. I'm scared for what's going to happen to me by this guy and these people. But it's okay. It's okay. Has to do the work. It's my transformative justice.